Hello and welcome everyone. This is the Ubuntu Community Q&A. My name is Daniel Holbach and I'm joined by David Planella and Michael Vogt today. And we were already joking that we could do this this hangout in German. Just let us know if you have any complaints. Otherwise, we're going to change the language in just a few minutes.
Or otherwise, the questions that we cannot answer, we'll answer them in German.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. If you're new to this, if you're watching this on ubuntuonair.com, there's the video feed, and below that you have the chat widget. Just use your favorite nickname, hit the connect button, and then you can talk to us. And yeah, we're looking forward to your questions. Just make sure you prefix them with question in all caps so we can more easily pick them up. Yeah, later on you can also circle, subscribe, friend, and follow all the Ubuntu on Air accounts you can find, because that way you get informed about new shows, old shows, and you get to see all the goodness. Anything else?
Excellent. Well, continue with the news. Shall we start with hinting at... well, let's start, since we've got Michael on the call today. I think he wants to tell us about new snap images that have just landed.
Sure, happy to. So, so as you know, or as a lot of people know, snapd is a very interesting, relatively new piece of software where you can install applications to your desktop after the stable Ubuntu has been released. So it's really nice. So you get stuff like Critter and so on. But we also work on images that are purely built based on snaps. So instead of the traditional approach where you have a bunch of debs as your base system, this is a system where you basically run 3 snaps: gadget, kernel, and core. And this has some interesting consequences. For example, we can upgrade the entire operating system in a pretty much atomic way. We can roll back to previous versions. So this makes it, the whole snap technology makes it very suitable for, say, embedded systems or systems that have a very high requirement on reliability. We have been working on this very, very actively in the last couple of months. And the second beta version of this feature is now available. So we have images for PC, AMD 64 and i386, and also for the Pi 2, the Pi 3, and the Dragon board. So all the big 4 architectures like ARM 32 and 64 and PC 32 and 64 bits are available. And yeah, we are quite excited about this. It's pretty good stuff.
Michael, quick question. The new images, they're all available, I think, on developer.ubuntu.com, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's so hosted on cdimage.ubuntu.com,
Oh, okay.
but I believe there are links on developer.ubuntu.com, and if not, we should certainly add links. It is, it is still a bit rough in some areas. It's not perfect. It's not super stable yet, but the important part is the foundations are good, I think. And the rough edges is mostly polish stuff where I don't know, the output is not super nice, or features that are just not fully done yet. But conceptually, I think this is really good and solid at this point.
Excellent. So other than the images, Daniel, I think we had a couple of other quick announcements to make before we get into questions.
Yes. So as you all know, end of October, we're going to have the Ubuntu release, and just some time after, it's time for another Ubuntu Online Summit. This is where we get to discuss the direction of the new release, also celebrate all the goodness that has landed in Yakety Yak. So that's very likely just waiting for last confirmations or the last objections. That's going to happen in the week of the 14th of November. So if you have big topics to discuss for the next release, that's the best time to invite everyone, bring them all to the same table and discuss things there. At the end of precisely that week, there's going to be the UbuCon Europe. So that's going to happen in Essen. That's going to be from the 18th through the 20th of November. So the weekend, starting with a social event on Friday night. So if you're in Germany at the time, or if you can make it there, it's going to be brilliant. We're going to have loads of people there, workshops, talks. You get to meet all the great people. There's Jane Silber is going to be there. We're going to have loads of folks. Dave, what are your highlights for the event?
Well, we're going to have great speakers, as you mentioned. We're going to have Jane in there, Jane Silver, CEO of Canonical. We're going to have folks from the volunteer Ubuntu community, some of them from Europe, some of them coming from the US and other parts. We're going to have Microsoft folks as well there too, and we're going to have some folks from other companies. So the event will be packed with talks. I think we've got about 3 or 4 different tracks. There are lots of rooms on that at the venue, and also it will be a great way to meet people from the community who you either haven't seen for a while or that you haven't met in person yet. The social event will be quite nice to get to know everyone before the talks start on Friday. But yes, certainly if you're near Essen or if you can make it to Essen in November, it's definitely worth going.
Brilliant.
All right. So we've got one first question, and I think I'm gonna start with that one, but perhaps I will ask the first Michael a question. Since we didn't do a proper introduction, Michael, could you tell us what you do at Ubuntu/Canonical?
Sure. So these days, I'm pretty much working exclusively on snapd, on the snappy system, on making it happen on images. Right now, we are pushing really hard to make the image story really solid, but it's the desktop is also quite important, and also the server side, and it's kind of nice. I mean, so I'm obviously developing stuff for snappy, for snapd, but I'm also an upstream for stuff that I just write in my spare time, and one example is a little tool called GoDD, which is like a trivial application that basically does what DD does, except that it's a little bit more user friendly, right? I mean, DD is super nice. It's a tool to write whatever you want to wherever you want it to. So usually we use it to write an image file to a block device, like to your, basically take the downloaded image for your Pi 2 and put it on an SD card. Now DD is, like I said, super powerful, but it's also super dangerous. Like, because if you get def SDA instead of SDB, or then you are basically overriding your main hard disk. And DD will not care, right? It's running as root. It just goes full steam ahead, and there goes your system. So DD, and this always bothered me, right? Because obviously, we want people to have a good experience when testing our images, and a single misplaced letter shouldn't destroy your system. So GoDD is one answer to this. It will basically just check before it writes if it would write to a mounted file system or a block device that has mounted file systems on it, and it will just refuse to do it. But GoDD was written after Xenial was released, right after 1604. So I had this challenge, like, how do I distribute it to my users? And snaps are a really nice way of fixing this problem. It took me like, I don't know, 10 minutes to create a snapcraft file. I used the Go plugin, the Go snapcraft plugin, pointed it to my Git directory and typed snapcraft, and it churned along happily for a couple of minutes, and that was it really. And now the instructions for how to test images are much nicer. Basically, you type snap install GoDD, a little bit of extra magic, and you have an application. And I'm happy as an upstream because I distributed my application to all the 1604 users in the world without having to bother about, backporting or requesting a review and all of this stuff. Like the store is doing it automatically. Uploading new revisions is really slick and fast. So yeah, I'm a happy Snapd user. So let's circle back. So yeah, I work on Snapd, mainly on images, but also on the desktop and also on the server. And I think the server use case is also a bit underappreciated at this point, because I think snaps are really powerful when it comes to deploying server use cases, because it has all the nice properties of containers, like it's self-contained. You can upgrade it atomically, but it's also at least to me, like very simple conceptually, like to understand. It's basically like, if you explain it to someone, it's like, yeah, it's a zipped or squashed version of your file tree, and you just run it, and that's all there is to it. Well, of course there is more to it, but I mean, this is all the hard parts we try to hide behind Snapd, so nobody has to bother about it. I guess that was a bit of a detour, but did it answer your question, or?
Cool. It answered my question very, very detailed, very detailed. So that's Michael Vogt for you, master of Snapd and savior of media storage and file systems. Well,
I wasn't sure if you had seen the question from Simon Quigley from 3 or 4 hours ago.
Yeah, that's where I was coming from. So. Okay. Michael gave us the accurate question of what he's working on for us geeks. Is probably the first one that we would be looking for. But here's the trick. So Simon Quigley, who's a regular at the Q&A, can't make it to the Q&A today, but he posted the question in advance a few hours ago. And essentially he was asking, how do you explain your job to people who don't know much about technology? What specifically do you tell them? What do you do?
That's a question. It's a question for me or for?
Well, let's leave you rest for a bit and perhaps start with Daniel, and we can answer each one of us.
Okay, that's a brilliant question.
Okay, so it's me first now. Okay.
Or I can go first. I don't mind.
I think I would say I'm helping developers to get their software to users. That's probably what I would say. And like, I don't know, the two of you could basically say the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's always about helping people. And for me, in my case, it develops always into like a half-an-hour conversation. So it's a really good conversation started with people you don't know. When I start telling them about what open source is, and it's generally people who are not familiar with open source or code development, and that's where it starts. And then I tell them about working with volunteers. They are really surprised about people working on something together for no apparent economical benefit. And then essentially tell them that we help people to contribute to Ubuntu as in an operating system, and whatever they contribute, they get it back. And my job and our job is to make it easier for them to contribute and to make sure that Ubuntu is better for everyone. So it's more or less the 5 cents that I generally say.
That's interesting. So when people ask me, I usually say I do stuff with computers, and then most of the time that pretty much cuts the conversation. But yeah, sometimes people do ask like what specifically, and then yes, I do talk about programming, and then again, most of the people stop being interested because it's already quite abstract. And then when I talk about building basically an operating system, basically redefining. I mean, Snapd itself is quite nice, but the snappy system, if you think about it from a more holistic, from a more system-ish kind of standpoint, it is actually rebuilding how we make an operating system to a certain extent. I mean, it is quite remarkable, actually. I mean, because we traditionally we had all these files lying around on disk, and in a lot of ways, a snappy system is so much more tidy because we have, like, if you look at the raw disk, you see pretty much 3 files like gadget, kernel, and OS. But once you start going there, then you pretty much lose most of the people because it's way too detailed and abstract. But yeah, I do love talking about it. It's just difficult to find people who appreciate it. But I love my team because my team loves to talk about this stuff, and we talk about it all the time, of course.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. All right. So we got a question from Kuku. Can snaps access mirror?
Yes. So we have a mirror interface. So snaps again are really interesting in a lot of ways, and are different from traditional the traditional way of doing stuff on Linux, because the access to resources is more restricted. Or maybe not restricted, is probably not the right word. More controlled is the better one. So by default, a snap that does not need more access, like take, for example, an application that needs to access the network, like, and if it's or a game, like all it does is draw stuff on the screen, then it really needs no access to your home directory. It needs no access to a file system, to any of this stuff. So we confine it by default. It can't access stuff. But we also have a concept called interfaces, which allows for a snap to basically ask for access to additional resources. And one of these interfaces is the mirror interface. And I believe it's working. I personally have not tested it, but yeah, I think it's good.
Cool. We see quite a lot of questions coming up for Snappy. So I think most of the people who are asking are probably already familiar with it. But just before we continue with the next question, if you want to know more about Snappy and the Snap architecture and what snaps are, I would recommend you to go to snapcraft.io, where the basic concepts are explained, and then you'll find a tutorial as well how to get started creating your first snaps. All right, so we've got another question from another regular, this time from the other side of the fence. That's Michael Hall, one of our Q&A hosts. He's asking, what applications services do you run from a snap today? I guess that's another one for you, Michael.
For me, okay. Yeah, it's funny. It is funny because, like I said earlier, this kind of morphed in an unexpected way. So some people who know me for longer know that I'm also, or I am still, but to a lesser extent. But I used to be very much involved in apt and deb packaging, and this is still near and dear to my heart. So I was expecting that snaps are brilliant, but they are really, for the big applications where packaging, snaps bundle stuff. So So if you package a huge Java application, for example, it makes a lot of sense to use snaps because you bundle all the dependencies. Or Node.js is another one where the dependencies are so dynamic, it's really hard to model it in the traditional dev way of things. So this was my expectation, actually. So, you know, snaps are brilliant for the big stuff, and packaging. Packaging is still used for a lot of the, you know, traditional stuff. GoDD, again, it kind of changed my mind, but it's not only GoDD, it's really, so a lot of the small tools I use and I write for myself or for other people, they morphed into snaps because of the ease to distribute stuff. I personally run, for example, we have a very, very nice integration test, or basically it's a task execution system, but we use it as a test runner. It's called Spread. It's written by Gustavo Niemeyer, and it's really, really nice if you need to do testing, like integration tests, system tests. It's a really cool and easy to use way to run it. And yeah, Gustavo puts out a snap, and we use the snap of Spread. So a lot of the stuff that I use for my day-to-day development actually comes from snaps. Like Ubuntu image is another one. Like when we build snappy images, images, you know, for the all snap system, they are built from a snap. And again, Ubuntu image is maybe even a better example than GoDD, because Ubuntu image is, so it's a really nice Python application. And in order for it to run, it needs some features from Yakety, basically from the development version of Ubuntu. So, for example, it needs a new E2FS prox package, and it doesn't strictly need it, but it's much nicer if it has it available. So for the snap, we actually just again, we had a Snapcraft file. We told it to use the Yakety version of the E2FS prox and just bundle our tools into the snap. And on Xenial now, you can have the power of the tools from Yakety without you know, any risk of regression on your regular system. So that's really nice. And but what I also found is that I'm really excited about the work towards desktop applications. Like I'm a big fan of KDE and Live. I use it for video editing, and you know, I'm just, you know, making small videos and fun stuff. But the idea of getting the latest and greatest KDE and Live from KDE directly, instead of, you know, waiting for the latest version to appear in a PPA or similar, that's just super exciting. And I can't wait for it. I mean, Critter is available now, which is nice. But for me personally, like KDE and Live, that would be a killer. Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe it's not just for me. What do you guys use snaps for?
I think one thing to mention here is that there's a KDE and Live snap in progress, and so this might be actually coming very, very soon. I mean, I myself, I'm actually quoting George Castro here. We used to work for the community team, and now he's working on cloud and servers. It's very exciting to see that every day or every morning you do a snap. I mean, you look for new snaps and you find something new. I personally, one that I use is the Atom snap, the code editor from GitHub, and that's one that I've been enjoying. Some other ones that I've been playing with, which I find quite useful, are some of the core apps. I used to have core apps in PPA and then test them on Unity 8. And for some of them, I started creating some snaps, Ubuntu and Clock and Calculator. And that's a really easy way to ship updates to users. Perhaps there's not that much difference with clock and calculator because they used to come from the Click store, but now they've evolved from Click to Snap, and you can still see the or you can still, as a user, get the latest very quickly. But yeah, I mean, essentially that's for me personally as a user the main benefit. All right, we should say as well that Sergio Zvesov from the Snappy team mentioned on IRC that, or confirmed on IRC that the Mir interface works and pointed to some documentation on developer.ubuntu.com. I won't read the whole long URL, but if you are on IRC, do check it out. And then Gustavo Niemeyer, who Michael was mentioning earlier, and also from the Snappy team, was talking about some service or some snaps. Mop, Spread, Telegram, MongoDB, Chromit, MPX, Spotify, MakeMV. There you go. So a long list already. All right then. So next question from Kuku again. When will snaps work on the phone, and how will the phone update images? Sorry, let me just read it. When will snaps work on the phone, and how will the phone update images as plain snaps? I believe there's still work ongoing on determining that, so I'm not sure we'll be able to give you a definitive answer. But I don't know, Michael, perhaps you know more about what's going on.
Unfortunately not. I mean, people are working on it. That's really all I know. And there's a lot of activity going on, but I have no idea about timelines and details, like how far this is. But I expect we will, in about 4 weeks, we will know more, because we have a meeting where the phone people and the Snap people basically all get together and we talk about this. And but yeah, right now, sorry, I can't really say anything that's not, totally made up.
I think people appreciate it. And I mean, I would say though that perhaps one thing that you should look forward to is seeing the progress from the convergence side of things, where we're working on what we call the personal, or the Ubuntu personal image, whereby you will get Ubuntu with Unity 8 delivered as snaps, and from that angle, I think that's where we will see the most progress on getting all snap systems for devices and desktop.
It's a simple matter of programming, right?
There you go. Famous last words from Daniel Holbach.
Yeah, definitely. We just need one more level of interaction to solve this problem, right?
Working on it.
All right. Next question. Can you make a snap from the Ubuntu SDK? I believe the SDK team were looking actually at it. Again, I myself, I cannot answer that one, but I'm pretty certain that the SDK team were actually trying to do that.
Yeah, I definitely talked to the SDK team about it a couple of days ago, but I'm not sure what the status is, like how far it is. But it's definitely progressing and on the agenda.
The thing that is that, again, famous last words, but it shouldn't be very hard, because like if you have a template and you know that, for example, most of the snaps are going to use CMake for building anyway, and they all need the same dependencies, that should be easy to do for Snapcraft, right?
Yeah, exactly. And at a very high level, clicks and snaps have similar designs.
All right, I've just realized that I understood the question incorrectly. So I think there's two sides to this question. whether you can create snaps while using the Ubuntu SDK. Yes, I mean, as we've said, the SDK team were looking at it, but what I understood is whether it was possible to create or to deliver the Ubuntu SDK as a snap. And I think the SDK team are looking at both things, to be honest. Right now, the SDK, you can install it through a PPA. And I think there was some research gone into making the SDK available as a snap. So yeah, I mean, both are possible. I think that's probably the answer. Okay. So next question is, how will snaps deal with different architectures? Do we need to make a separate snap for every architecture, or can it be bundled together?
So that's a really interesting question, and we actually support both models. So you can have what we call fat snaps, which well, maybe we should call them differently, but so you can bundle multiple binaries in the same snap. The architecture field in a snap is a list, so you can just do whatever you want here. But actually, I would not recommend it. I mean, there are certain valid use cases where you want to do it, but Snapcraft can talk to the store now. It's really easy to push stuff to the store. So I would recommend creating one snap per architecture. And Launchpad can build these snaps for you. So if you have a Snapcraft file, you can link your Snapcraft file in Launchpad to a build, and Launchpad is even able to push all the stuff to the store for you, all your snaps, and then you have a one snap per architecture basically automatically created, built by the Launchpad builders. It's really convenient. The reason is obvious, right? I mean, the reason is size, because snaps bundle dependencies. Then you need to bundle dependencies for all your architectures, so they tend to get big fast. But there are use cases. We support both models.
All right, trying to find the next question. Yes, again, snap related. So why refresh and not update? Why find and not search?
I think, yeah, that's a tricky one. So one reason is, and I think Gustavo said it in the channel already, update has a bit of history as a term, and it's also, I mean, in a lot of ways. So apt is using update and upgrade and full upgrade and dist upgrade, and it's all of these terms are kind of, I mean, they're not confusing because we get used to them, but what's the difference between an update and an upgrade? And it's kind of, the words are so similar. It just makes sense, I think, to coin a new term. And refresh is a nice term because it really conveys what is happening. The system is refreshed. There's fresh stuff coming, and also, like on apt, there's a separation between an update and an upgrade. Like you update the metadata and you upgrade your packages, but snapd is, the metadata is really not a separate step. It's when you talk to the store, it talks metadata at this stage already. So there is only a single interaction basically, and that's refresh.
Cool. One thing to add to Michael's answer as well. Gustavo Niemeyer is actually some members from the Snappy team are answering questions on IRC as well, and I just wanted to read out this quote from Gustavo for those of you who are joining us on YouTube. on update versus refresh. Snaps are much more lightweight and predictable on updates, and they update automatically by default. That's different from the typical apt update process, and we wanted to prevent that process from being misunderstood for historical reasons. So refresh rather than update.
Yeah, and Gustav was making a really good point here. Like snaps are updated automatically, and we update stuff all the time. Like when there's a new version in the store, you get the update, and we can do it because we have a rollback story. Like we are really confident that if you are unhappy with the new version for whatever reason, you can go back to the previous version, and you can also switch channels easily. Like it's really nice to go back and forth between versions in a snappy system, and again, as much as I love apt and depackage and as much as I think we owed great success to it, downgrades, for example, were never really possible. I mean, you could do hackish stuff, but downgrading in general is unsupported, or it's maybe not unsupported, but the post-inst would have to know about it, and it's really it's really something that nobody tests for. So an upgrade in the traditional world is really a one-way trip. Like you upgrade and that's it. And if you are unhappy, basically you need to use a backup. But in the snappy world, an upgrade is, or a refresh is, you can always go back if you are unhappy, if it's not quite right. It's the same for channels. Like you can switch to beta or even to Edge, and if stuff is not working, if it's crashing, you just go back to stable or whatever your previous version was.
All right, another question from Andrew Heisen. If you're creating an app that just depends on Qt or GTK and you don't care about the display server, are you expected to include all of the plugs for X, Mir, and Wayland in your Snapcraft? Or are you expected to choose one of them? And then will the display server run inside what the user is using, e.g. Mir on X or Mir on Wayland, etc.?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. This is a difficult one for me because I'm not really an X person or a Mir person. So I'm not really sure what the best answer is here. I
think. I mean, again, take my answer with a pinch of salt, because I mean, Michael and the other guys are the experts in here. But in my experience, particularly on snapping applications for the Snappy Playpen project, we've been looking at creating what we call the desktop launchers, which were parts that put all of the dependencies that you needed for running an app under a particular, for running desktop snaps under a particular toolkit, GTK or Qt. In that case, I think we mostly focused on Unity 7 applications. So we used the Unity 7 plugs only. That is, we didn't do anything Mir specific. However, we started working on the clock app to be run as Snap under Unity 7 and Unity 8. And if I'm not mistaken, to get them to work on both systems, you had to then specify the plugs and dependencies for Unity 7 and Unity 8. Although I don't think we have a Unity 8 plug per se yet. But I think to answer the question, and some member of the Snappy team will correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have to include all of the plugs specifically.
Yeah, please also keep in mind that a lot of this is evolving, especially on the desktop and on this new backends like Mir and Wayland, because all of this is relatively new. It is, I mean, there are some, some warts, some issues, some rough edges still, and we are very keen to fix these. But yeah, it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, I was just about to say something similar, offering a third answer to the question. Like this is the brave new world. Like we're dealing with software today, which has like 20 years of expectations and crazy stuff that just works because it evolved that way, and now we're basically turning everything around. But and things are evolving, but like in an ideal world, app developers shouldn't really care about this. Like they should write their app, and whatever the system is using to display something, it would just work. How we're going to get there, no idea. But yeah, that's the discussions which are going to happen in the very near future.
Yeah, and I mean, always remember, right? If the system, like if a snappy system or if the snaps, if that looks unfamiliar to you, try to remember when somebody explained the first time the separation between user, var, and the finer points about this. I mean, I don't think it was entirely intuitive back when you heard about it for the first time. Like after 10 years of doing it this way, sure, it's second nature, but really, it's not. And this is the same. It's the same for snaps. Like it's a new concept, so it takes a little bit to get used to.
All right. So remember, if you have any questions, to prepend them with the word question so that we can see them more easily. It seems that we've gone through all of the questions that we had so far, but I do have one for Michael, taking the opportunity that he's here with us today. So for the Snappy roadmap or Snaps roadmap, there's quite a lot of progress. There's quite a lot of changes going on. And not to talk of timelines other than particular milestones is difficult sometimes, but regardless of timelines, what's the feature of Snaps that you're most looking forward to?
Sorry, what's the feature? What's the snaps I most look forward to, or what?
Oh, sorry. What's the feature in Snappy that you are most looking forward to?
Delta updates, actually. So, I mean, I'm a user of, like I said before, like I'm a user, I'm a developer, I'm an upstream. So if people are unhappy about certain aspects of Snappy or of Snapd, probably I'm as well, right? Because I'm using it daily, maybe even more than you. And one of the things that kind of bother me is that snaps, because they bundle dependencies, they tend to be bigger than dApps, right? And there are good reasons for it, but it's a trade-off, right? And life is always a trade-off. And we made this trade-off to bundle dependencies, but of course the cost is now that we have this additional download. But at least part of this will get much smaller once we have Delta updates. And there is work on this, and I really look forward to this feature. And it's also really nice because the way we use, like, snaps are self-contained files in a predictable format, in a it's a squashfs file. So building deltas is actually quite easy. And if you look at what other systems are doing in order to create deltas or maintain deltas, like if you want to build this on traditional package managers where you have a container that is unpacked, like a IPM or a deb, you would always have to either keep the container around or repack the container, get the delta. I mean, sure, there are different ways of doing it, but to summarize, like, snaps are really, really nice when it comes to deltas, because they just scream towards, like, make deltas out of me, because it's such an easy way of of applying them. You always have the original file around. Like, it's, yeah, this is what I'm looking forward to mostly, the most.
Excellent, thank you. All right. So I think. Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think we've got enough questions for today. So we might consider wrapping up early this week. Otherwise, we can still bombard Michael with the questions, because I want to know more about snaps myself as someone who's using them and trying to make them to do something. But yeah, Daniel, do you have any other questions, or do you think we should just wrap it up for today?
Considering that I talk to Michael regularly on the phone anyway, and he gets all my stupid questions all of the time, I probably won't need to keep him here.
Excellent. All right, then I'll probably would just like to say is thank you again, Michael, for joining us today. Thanks a lot for the well, essentially for making Snappy happen, and thanks for taking the time. I know that you guys are all very, very busy, and people do appreciate you guys spending time to help users. I mean, you saw it from the number of questions. So with this, also a reminder to everyone who wants to know more about snaps, we've got Snappy channel on Freenode on IRC. We have snapcraft.io, the website where you can learn all about snaps and learn about getting started with creating your first snaps. And also we've got a couple of other initiatives going on, such as the Snappy Playpen, where every Tuesday during the whole day we start snapping applications, making sure that we help everyone who wants to create their first snaps, and then putting together a list of applications that people can use as examples. That's on GitHub/Ubuntu/Snappy-Playpen. Is that correct, Daniel?
It is.
Perfect. And then we've got a Gitter channel associated as well, where people can talk in real time with Snappy developers and with some of us working with the community. You'll find mostly Daniel in there, who's been driving the playpens for the last quite a few weeks, actually. And there you can ask all of your questions.
Excellent.
All right. And with this, yeah. Thank you, everyone. And see you next week.
Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, it was great fun.
Thank you. All right, then. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
See you.
See ya.